Good Game Pocket Edition, the pint-sized show for gamers by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Barjo, and Hex, it's good to be back behind the wheel this week in Grid 2.
Our full review of Codemasters RevFest at the end of the show, but first, a few other games we've been playing, starting with a little something on the 3DS. Mario and Donkey Kong Minis on the Move sees the world-famous plumber and his big hairy pal back together once again in what can only be described as a sort of path-building puzzler. As the Minis begin their slow trek to the path of danger, it's up to you to pick and choose from a selection of building blocks to successfully see them to the finish line, and maybe pick up some shiny stars and coins along the way. Rotating tiles, spring pads, dead ends, and bashable enemies change the way you approach a level.
My favourite mode is Puzzle Palace, which abandons randomly spawning tiles and instead gives you the exact pieces you need to perfect a level. Some of those advanced levels are really difficult too, and I like that you can create your own levels and share them online.
There is something like 180 main levels in this game, so there's certainly no shortage of content, which is great for what is essentially a budget-priced download from the eShop, so I gave it 8.
Yeah, some of the extra mini-games are a bit rubbish, but the main game will get you hooked, so I gave it 7.5. Now let's see how we survive in the wilderness. Don't Starve is an indie adventure game for PC and Mac. You play as Wilson, a rather eccentric-looking fellow with wild hair, who is stuck out in the middle of nowhere and faced with impending dangers of nightfall. It's up to you to gather resources, build a campfire, find some food, and try to make it through to the morning in one piece. You soon realise you can craft a whole bunch of stuff to make your job a little easier, as long as you don't use up all the important things you need, such as wood for your fire or flint for your axe. If you die, you lose everything.
If you find a resurrection stone, you have one shot and one shot only at being brought back to life from that stone, so you can get back to your corpse and retrieve your precious belongings.
This is one of those games where you have to be pretty committed to the repeated process of harvesting and crafting, because so often you'll end up back at square one and have to repeat the same process over and over. It starts out tough and only seems to get tougher, but that's what I liked about it. I just wanted to get better and better and better at it, so I gave it 7.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
This game challenges you in frustrating ways, and without a friend to share in that frustration, it was a bit of a lonely and punishing experience for me, so I gave it 5.5. Next, the MMO of EVE Online goes FPS on the PS3. Dust 514 is a free-to-play online-only shooter that at first glance doesn't seem particularly different from other team-based shooters out there. You've got your standard variety of classes to choose from, including Assault, Medic, and Sniper. There are a few different game modes as well, but mostly you'll be playing a capture the point mode, where taking a point activates a large missile battery that will start attacking the enemy's command ship. The first team to take down the enemy ship wins.
Mission accomplished. Hostile MCC destroyed.
The kicker here is that the game is taking place inside of EVE Online, which is a highly intricate and complex MMO. Each player in Dust is basically a mercenary, and EVE players can hire them to take control of planets. EVE players can even assist their mercs and bombard the battlefield from space.
It's amazing how they've tied this all together. I mean, having players in one game attack players in a different game, that's really cool.
I like the look of the gritty sci-fi worlds. There's plenty of room for vehicles to move about and some great sniping spots, but it's not the prettiest game out there.
Visuals aside though, I think they've done a really great job. It hooks you in with accessible shooting and then keeps you there with a deep progression, a fantastic skill leveling system, and the customizable dropsuit armor. I guess I'm just a little concerned about Dust's shelf life on the PS3 with the PS4 just around the corner. You know, it's weird that they didn't include a PC version. But regardless, I gave it 8.5.
I gave it 8.5 as well. Now to the Ask Good Game desk to answer the questions, Hex.
Yes, let's go.
Good game.
Okay, this week we've got a question from Amelia in Sydney, New South Wales. Please explain how you are allowed to show, review R18+ games at a time when it is reasonable to expect younger teenagers to be watching. I understand the new rating system, but I think it's wrong to broadcast only slightly edited snapshots of restricted games. I watch GG with my 13-year-old son, so I stay informed about games and to support his interests. I don't want to see those scenes, and we need to be confident that the material on your show is suitable. Thanks, Amelia.
Well, that's a great question, Amelia. We can assure you we take extreme care in making sure we follow the classification guidelines.
The ABC has a team of excellent professional classifiers, and all of our shows go past their watchful eyes before being put to air. They inform us of the classification and advice. That's the verbal and written warning right at the start of the show.
This video has been classified as M.
This will give you a heads up if that particular program is not suitable for your son.
The maximum rating allowed is also determined by the time slot. Full-length full-length Good Game screens at 8:30 p.m. on a Tuesday, which means it can be up to M for mature audiences, whereas Pocket Edition screens at 8:20, which allows for a maximum rating of PG, which is parental guidance. As reviewers of the games, we have a responsibility to represent the games fairly while staying within that classification guideline. I think it's fair to say, Hex, that some of our most lengthy discussions are about what we should show in a game, how much footage and how little.
Yeah. Take Mortal Kombat, for example. The extreme violence in that game we felt need to be talked about so that we could represent the game fairly and, inform our viewers of what they might expect if they chose to play it. But there's no way we could have shown the full extent of that violence within our M rating, so we resorted to recreating scenes with action figures and choosing our footage very carefully.
And giving multiple warnings throughout the show too. But games are an adult entertainment option, and I think it's also reasonable to expect that on Good Game we will be talking about those games and showing footage with a mature audience in mind.
And just in case you didn't know, Amelia, we do have an all-ages show, Spawn Point, which screens at the weekends on ABC3. Its maximum rating is G, and it's guaranteed to only feature games suitable for younger gamers. In fact, one of the reasons we wanted to make Spawn Point was because we know that younger Australians wanted a show about games, but that some of the content would be unsuitable for them on adult Good Game.
Also, Spawn Point has a robot.
Yeah, so we hope that alleviates some of your concerns, Amelia. Thanks for writing in. And now it's time for You Review. And speaking of R18+ ratings, how about we go with Metro Last Light?
Yes, good choice. And it seems like it's a love or hate affair with some very high scores and a few ultra low ones.
And we hid from God's sight in the Metro. And he apparently decided that flushing us out wasn't worth the trouble.
So let's start off with this, and Sly here had this to say. What is this, a depression injection? I came to feel excited, not to feel like a bloody emo.
No!
Let her be.
Half a star.
And Gui Bosco says, way too depressing, makes me want to do something like bake cookies, and I don't even know how to do that. That's how depressing this game is, really. 1 star.
I want cookies. But it's fair to say the majority of you loved its doom and gloom, like Mr. Aprilia, who wrote, "This game is brilliant. It feels like you're actually there, and don't listen to Banjo and Hexo. Not all gamers need to be mentally punished by non-stop action. Also, yes, the world is at end of days. People are going to be sad. It's called setting the mood." Rainbow Unicorn 8, this 7? Are you serious? 9.5 stars.
This is an outrage!
I think a Rainbow Unicorn somewhere in Metro would have been great personally.
Yeah, plus I don't think it's really fair to compare those two games' scores against each other. I mean, one is an iPhone game that was free and we really enjoyed it, in relation to other games of that genre. You can't really compare the two. But B. Kang seems to agree though, saying, "This game is amazing. Few bugs here and there, but other than that, it's great. 10 out of 10.
And Condorio also disagreed with us, writing, "I was about 4 hours into Last Light when I watched your review, and I do think you were too critical on how the story presented itself. Although I admit forcing you to walk slowly during conversations to be annoying. It is, in essence, a narrative. The story is a big part of it, and not liking the way it's handled is almost no different to playing the game just to mindlessly shoot everything in sight. So in terms of how they presented the game, I think you missed the point. 9 stars.
All right.
Looking back, Hex, I feel like maybe I was a bit too harsh on that game in general, but I really didn't have a good time with it. Just that slowdown, I guess it is personal taste."
Well, we're glad that most of you are enjoying it. On that note, back to the studio.
Good game.
Race Driver Grid came out in 2008 and perfectly hit that sweet spot between arcade and simulation racing. Grid 2 does everything better.
There's over 80 tracks spread across 14 locations, and we reviewed this on 360 and PC, and when everything's on full in 1440p and you've got all the reflections in the bonnet, I couldn't stop staring at the bonnet and getting distracted, and all the lighting and then the smoke everywhere. The smoke's so pretty.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely stunning.
Pretty.
There's such variety in how these tracks feel as well, so you never get tired of the events. And now and then you'll let loose on wide open circuits where you can really put your foot down and see how fast these cars can actually go.
The AI do drive professionally, and they will be careful to try and avoid you hesitating in realistic ways. But even they make mistakes, and pile-ups and spin-outs will happen, and they feel natural and organic.
I would say Grid is as much about overtaking as defending your position, especially online. We didn't get all the way to the top tier events, but we tried some custom races with McLarens and Indy cars. And the hallmark of this developer's racing games is definitely the rewind feature, and they've smoothed that out a lot since the last game. For me, I think the best thing about the rewind feature is that it just makes you take more risks.
Yeah, and that's the core of this game, isn't it? The risk-taking.
split screen is back on both PC and console. Along with upgrading your vehicles, the game tracks the stats of your friends' times, just like Need for Speed's auto log. And you can compete in global challenges which change each week. Plus there's YouTube integration for sharing videos, which is always appreciated.
We couldn't test out all the online functionality because the game wasn't live at the time of review, but I was able to get a couple of hours in a multiplayer session with the developers who were all the way in the UK, and surprisingly little lag considering how far away they were. The lobby system worked well, and there's some interesting ideas such as the live route system where the track changes as you play, so it means it's more about who's the better driver as opposed to who knows the track the best.
Your driving style is represented by an icon above your vehicle, so now everyone can see the crazy drivers.
It's such a great feature. I wish it was implemented in real life though.
Yeah. Grid 2 is a masterful racer and really is the perfect sequel, I think, Barjo. I gave it 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I had a great time. I gave it 9.5.
Good game.
Well, that's all we have in our pocket for another week, but tune in Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. for our full-length episode of Good Game where we'll be reviewing the intriguing new action-adventure Remember Me.
We'll also have a look at the latest Call of Juarez.
Well, it's nice to see the series returning to the Wild West where it belongs.
Yes, absolutely, especially after that last game. And I'm just happy we get to say Juarez again. Until next time, Barjo out.
Hex out.